Greetings, I'm John Spirit, I've made a terrible mistake, and welcome to Modded Factorio Supershorts. Let's take a look at mod settings in the startup settings and scroll right down to Robot World Continued, where you can observe that this inserter speed multiplier is set to 2. And for some even weirder reason, this is not the default. The default is 1. When did I change this? I promise I didn't change this when I was beginning this game. It must have happened in some other game where I was feeling like a dirty cheater. However, this obviously means that the 1.2 per second number that I get from these mechanical inserters is patently false. A lot of my builds are, therefore, rather in danger. Because I need to change this back. I mean, I can't just keep it this way. As much as I want to, because I relied on it so much, I cannot. It's not fair. Well, I mean, cheating is whatever you decide it is. It's really whether you feel like cheating. But I feel like all my builds will be stunted by the idea that I'm using inserters double as fast. I have had no incentive to switch to electric inserters so far, precisely because mechanical inserters are so fast on their own. 1.2 per second, I was thrilled by that number, because it's precisely enough to make a boiler work at full speed, and therein lies the rub. If I need to put two inserters worth of coal into the boiler, and take out 2 inserters worth of ash, there's only 3 spots I have available on this boiler, so I must find another solution. Thankfully, my solution involves a slightly lesser form of cheating, choots. Why choots? Because they are at least 1.2 per second, while mechanical inserters are going to be 0.6 per second. Unfortunately, this will be rather expensive because it will require a lot of splitters, but I am making enormous amounts of simple circuit boards, so it doesn't really matter. With the letters F and G, I can flip this blueprint back and forth so that it matches the right side here. Hurrah huzzah, our power system is now revamped. I just need to fix the other one, and then I'll be able to change it. Well, I do need to check some other areas where this inserter problem may still matter. For example, right here, we output 1.5 coal per second, but mechanical inserters will only output 0.6 per second each, so I need 3 of them. Even pulling out of this destructive distillation column, I will need twice the number of mechanical inserters. Even things I never would have imagined could stall, like the calcium carbide I'm giving to the acetylene, and the coke I'm giving to the calcium carbide could stall because of this, so I need to switch it to 2 mechanical inserters, each on the high pressure furnace and the gasifier. Quartz processing is done, by the way. I'm going to research copper processing. Now we must do destructive distillation column, which once again requires splitters and chutes, and extra mechanical inserters. Output priority on the left on this splitter, and then conveyor belt will take that up, while the rest will go down. And a chute will accomplish the rest of the coal dumping. Another system just like that one to dump the coal into this destructive distillation column, and we have finished fixing these. The solution for this destructive distillation column is simply plugging in a chute. But I need to put 2 more mechanical inserters worth of coke because I can't shoot those out. Oops. I'll need a couple more mechanical inserters on my glassworks, but it looks like not much else in this area requires any more inserting than 1 mechanical inserter is capable of. Raw fibers here also need more mechanical inserters. Funnily enough, I need to find more for ash as well. Wood should be fine, just barely. Rich clay from this DDC definitely needs to become chutes. So does soil. These chutes will unfortunately pull ash out of this assembling machine, but that's okay because I have to empty the steel chest every now and then anyway, so how much is that a problem? I'll research electrolysis because I'm sure I'm going to need it for a million things later. But otherwise, I'm done. One more thing I want to do with this power system is make sure that the offsets on half the mechanical inserters are pushing into the left of the belt, and the offsets on the other half are pushing into the right. Now that even this system has been reset to handle the double mechanical inserter problem, I can save my game, and then quit the game, and then I will go into mod settings so I can change startup settings. I'm going to change inserter multiplier back to 1. I will sync mods and load. Okay, sync mods and load was apparently incorrect. Let me just reset again. Instead, I'll just press load, and we will see if the change in speed is... Yes, the change in speed has finally occurred. Wow, they travel so slowly. But in good news, the ash is being fully removed, with a slight gain in ash, which is to be expected because this should produce just over 1.2 ash per second, while these remove just under that. But that's okay, it just means the boilers will run a slight fraction of the time less than they should, which would be a normal fraction of the time. If I really wanted to, I could switch it for electric inserters, but I'll do that later. So now it's time for us to produce our PyScience system. I wasted a fair amount of space with so much random stuff here, so I'm going to try and start most of it downwards. Well, I'm tempted to do it up here because the native flora that I need for the system is all coming from right here, so I could do the system in the upward direction, but that would make less space for coal. I could probably handle it. It's just dangerous to waste so much space that's supposed to be used for coal power. I think I'm going to set my latex system up first because it requires the native flora, and I'm going to put it up south, just beside the automation science factory. Seaweed is an item used both by the latex and the Vrauks systems, so I'll put seaweed right smack dab in the middle of the two systems. All of these vrauk machines have been filled with Vrauks. The first 5 will be used to make more Vrauks. These underground belts will bring down a native flora. Actually, scratch that for a moment. I'm going to put these on the other side. What I realized is that both of these need moss, so I can just put moss on one side of a belt that drags up the entire vrauk system. Moss is probably going to come up on the right of this belt, and vrauk cocoons will be dumped onto the left. In interesting news, the mechanical inserter is apparently not fast enough to pull coal from these belts for my burner mining drills. This is so sad. Instead, I've turned it to pull with an offset to the right. Okay, I now have vrauk cocoons being dumped out using the mechanical inserters. Now I also need to provide sap, but I can do that as easily as a little bend right there. This line can bring down native flora, I realized. It looks like I need 2 collectors worth of native flora for this system. I'm attaching the other set of collectors to the conveyor belt. That way I can split the native flora in half. Some of it will go down to the automation science back where it belongs, the rest will go to my vrauk paddocks. Now that native flora is hooked up, I'm going to finish setting up sap. I have 40 sap seeds and 8 planter boxes with which to make my 8 sap trees. Where the hell did here we go? Producing enough syngas, normal coal, and carbon dioxide for my system below requires some doing, but I set up this whole system in hopes that it would help. But one problem is that it keeps getting clogged up on coke. So I am now dumping coke into a destructive distillation column that will kill the coke and turn it into 1 ash per 20 coke. Very nice. And a little bit of coal gas and tar, which will continue to fuel my syngas friendos. However, because I'm only extracting 1 coke's worth from this belt, 1 inserter's worth of coke from this belt, while 2 inserters worth are pulling coke from these destructive distillation columns, I'll have a slight surplus of normal coal. Or at least I should have a slight surplus. I am waiting for this surplus now. As long as my titanium isn't running. And once my titanium starts running, everything will be sad. So hopefully it doesn't run for a while. This coke will be used for making the rubber stoppers for our glassware. 4 moss farms will produce enough moss for the vrauk paddocks and the wood that moss is also needed for. The necessary muddy sludge requires much less than 1 washer and 1 soil extractor, but we'll make 1 of each anyway because it's not like we can make a fraction anyway. I can comfortably restrict myself to only 1 mechanical inserter pulling soil from this soil extractor into this washer to make muddy sludge. Now all I need to do is provide stone, and luckily I have my friendly electric mining drill providing all the stone that I need. I'm switching vrauk cocoon output to the right of the belts for each of these underground belts and vrauk cocoon extractors and such. Because as it turns out, moss is going to enter this belt from the left, and then with an output splitter and priority, I'm going to bring out the rest of the moss to do all the other things it needs to do. Meanwhile, these 5 sap extractors will make sap, which will get dumped onto the sap belt for our vrauk cocoon friends. In a truly immense sad, I have discovered that an underflow valve and overflow valve have a strange interaction. Right now, no coal gas is coming from these destructive distillation columns because this system is full, and this system is full. All the coal gas is full everywhere. Except the system isn't quite full. It's at precisely 80% full, which means that no coal gas is spilling over into the Pi gas vent. However, this underflow valve is supposed to pump coal gas in when the output is under 80%, which it will never be because the coal gas is precisely at 80%. And therefore, the destructive distillation column that's supposed to be getting rid of its coke cannot get rid of its coke because its coal gas is stuck. The solution is as follows: remove the underflow valve. Why? Because there's already an overflow valve pushing into a gas vent. Well. Now the last thing you want to do is remove all of these vrauks. I'm going to put them on a splitter that prioritizes only the last 2 Vrauks paddocks. I could put the prioritization slitter all the way up here so that all 3 Vrauks paddocks are guaranteed to have excess Vrauks in the line before any Vrauks go off to the rest of the factory, but I don't want to have that much of a buffer of Vrauks. The point of the buffer of Vrauks is to make sure that the Vrauk cocoons, if, all the Vrauks get used somewhere, Vrauk cocoons can still be made, which can then produce more Vrauks. But I don't need all 3 Vrauk cocoon Vrauk paddocks to be available just well. Okay, there's one thing I can do. I can simply move the splitter right down here. Then I'll put the mechanical inserter for Vrauks right at the very bottom of this 3rd Vrauk paddock for Vrauk cocoons. That way I have at least a very slight buffer for the 3rd Vrauk paddock. And besides, the Vrauk paddock itself will contain Vrauks in it. Alright, our moss friends are now running, and so is sap. It's an unfortunate thing so much moss needs to buffer in order to run all these Vrauk paddocks, except I have lots of moss to buffer it with. Remember that you can use Z to dump stuff from your inventory right onto a conveyor belt, or anywhere. Sometimes I would precisely put one automation science pack into a lab, and it wouldn't go into the lab because the hitboxes have nothing to do with the shape of the building, as we know. Inconveniently, Vrauk cocoons involve a much larger buffer. But the Vrauk paddocks will get going eventually. Anyway, once we start destroying Vrauks for formic acid, all we have to do is shove all that stuff together and we'll get rubber stoppers. And by all that stuff, I mean a bunch of other random stuff, none of which is anywhere near as difficult to deal with as the Vrauks. That said, I think we can finish all of this stuff, famous last words, in the next episode. We've got the space for it, we just need to shove it all down, and we will have our PyScience. So that will be the attempt of the next episode. For now, if you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. I hope you enjoyed.